would not be here. So yeah, I can host this meeting. So good morning, everyone. Please sign into the sign-in sheet if you want to add your stuff to agenda. And let's start with Frederick.
It's March 8th, 2023, by the way.
Yes.
Sorry, I just show some IDs that I need to speak about without providing link. So let me try to link stuff when I'm speaking. Tough business. So we have a PR open to upgrade GLPM to use Yarn 3. In that PR that I'm linking right now, Nick has mentioned that Yarn 4 is around the corner, like they have release candidate. And the question that Nick raised was, should we use that version and hope that we get the final for JupyterLab 4, in a bit like what we are doing for TypeScript 5. The trouble that I have see with that idea is that TypeScript has a roadmap quite that they are respecting quite a lot about which date is they are gonna release the final version. So this, but they don't have that for Yarn as far as I've seen. So yeah, I'm a bit reluctant to say let's try the RC because yeah, if we can release JupyterLab 4 without waiting for Yarn 4, yeah, that will be probably better. But that's my opinion. I don't know if others have other thoughts.
Well, any comments on the topic? No, Frederick, so you're essentially done with everything you wanted to talk about?
No, it's quite different.
Oh, sorry.
Quite different topics. So I will let some space for people to comment and before instead of just like raising everything at once.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Jason, for commenting. The next point is about the Majax PR. I don't know if David is on the call. Doesn't seem so. Maybe Andre or Jason, you have some update on that one. To basically is to know what's the status, as it's like changing the number of packages for JupyterLab 4 and stuff like that. It's like blocking the start of beta release.
I don't see David on this, but I believe he'll be working today, so I can ping him real quick about this PR.
I know that he asked to maybe set up some discussion. I don't know, as I was not there like really 100% last week. Like, yeah, don't hesitate to tell him that he can ping me and other that to try to set up a separate meeting if he has question on that, so that we can help. So that's the second point. The third point is about Mermaid JS. So I don't know if you've seen, but Nick was very efficient to provide a PR for supporting the same features that GitHub has for Markdown, meaning you can have graph in Markdown that will be converted on the fly. I think he demonstrated last week. Yeah, he demonstrated last week. So I commented on the PR that one of the trouble is that he's going to be introducing some discrepancy between Jupyter tool, but because Nick is very effective, he has already opened a PR also on NBConvert and to support that. But yeah, I don't know, like, what should we do? Should we rush it for 4 or should we wait for some discussion at the Jupyter Software Steering Console? What seems like the best place because it's cross-project features. Yeah, that's basically the point I want to raise. Like, if people have opinions, we can discuss it right now, or just like you can join on the PR to bring your thought on that. Go ahead, Tony. Oh, I'm not hearing you. I don't know.
Sorry, I don't know how hard the implementation is, so I'm not gonna talk about that part here. But JupyterLab markup has had this for quite a while now, and it's a great feature. And in my experience, when I've shown people that you can do Mermaid in Jupyter, it's been a really strong feature that people come to. So, you know, just from the user side, I really advocate for this because of the general application of Mermaid on both GitHub and GitLab now, but this would be a great feature to have without an extension.
Thanks, Tony. I agree that's a great features. It's just like, yeah, as we are not very, as we don't specify so much Markdown in Jupyter, I was wondering, like, should we move ahead with the users, user support, or should we back up a bit? That's the main question, I think. So yeah. And to not take too much time, then I will move to the last point about Lumino 2. So I was hoping to get Lumino 2 final release last week. Unfortunately, we have seen a bug when introducing that version in JupyterLab and in Notebook 7. So I have released a new release candidate. Jeremy has opened a PR on JupyterLab and it's been merged. So I'm hoping to do a new alpha of JupyterLab this week so that we can also have a new version of Notebook 7 alpha. And when those two are out, hopefully we don't see any more glitches, and then next week I can release Lumino 2 final. If somebody have seen some additional glitches, if they have tried RC, yeah, don't hesitate to ping me or open an issue on the appropriate repository. Yeah, so that was the update for that. And yeah, I think I'm done. Thanks.
Thanks, Frederick. Yeah, if no one doesn't have any questions or comments for that, we can proceed to the next topic, to Carlos, to saving the behavior.
Thanks. Yeah, I wanted to discuss the SaveAs action. Basically, right now it's broken in JupyterLab 3.6 and 4 in collaborative mode. The reason is basically the SaveAs action. How it works is it first renames the file in memory, and then it tries to save the new file. So once the user ends saving as with a new name, basically JupyterLab, let's say, kind of closes the old document and opens the new one. It's not exactly doing that. It's just renaming the name that we have in memory in the client. And that's a small problem for RTC. Basically, so it's the same issue that we were seeing when we were duplicating the document data. Basically, the model that we have loaded and the data that we have loaded in memory is not going to be the same that we have in the backend. So I would like to propose to change the behavior of the action, what the user will see, and instead of renaming the file that the user has opening a new one and keeping both opens. That way, for RTC, we can just open a new document, and we don't need to rename the file or close it and open a new document, which is not really possible. We will need to change the API. So yeah, I opened a pull request to fix the SaveAs in RTC, but it changes the behavior. Just take a look and yeah, let me know what you think on that peer. Thanks.
Would you say then that the save as is more like make a copy?
What do you mean?
Is the save as sorry, what I heard you saying is save as opens a new document and leaves the current one open.
Yes, when the user presses the button to save as, then we show a dialog. The user writes the new name, and basically, as soon as the user saves with a new name that document, what we do is we just rename the document that we have in memory and save. So we are creating a new document with the content that we have in memory. And then we keep that same document in memory. We just rename the path of that document. And for RTC, that's a problem. The main problem right now, it doesn't work. The reason is because in RTC we are using the new file ID service. So basically, the document is not identified by the name, instead by a UID. So when we rename the path on the backend, we detect that the new path is not the same document. It's a new document, so it doesn't allow us to rename that document in memory. And yeah, basically, we will need to change the UX behavior of the save as. Instead of just renaming, it will be opening a new document. So the user will see the old document and the new one. That's all.
So is that so is that effectively like having make a copy of this document and then you see the old document and you see the new document? Is that what the user experience is?
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Is there anything preventing from just closing the old document so it goes away from the UX?
We will need to change the API. So basically, all those actions are done in the document registry context, and it doesn't have access to the document manager. I mean, okay, we could just change the action. Actually, we could just change the command that we have registered in the command palette to track, to check the widget that we have open. It should be the one active in the screen, so we could close it from there. Okay, yeah, I could try. I can try that. I'm not sure if it will work, but I can try. Yeah, thanks, Isa.
So there's
Vidar.
also, yeah, question from Vidar, and also there was a comment from Mike in the chat. Yeah, Vidar.
Yeah, so just out of technical curiosity, when you do a save as, when you get a new document, will you still have like the undo state from the previous document, or will you lose that? Yeah, that's I guess that will be a very predictable issue on the repository then after we release that somebody saved as and they lost their undo state.
Yeah, in RTC, we lose the undo state. Without RTC, in non-collaborative mode, we could maybe keep the state, the undo.
Carlos, would it be
Yeah.
possible to do the save as, like do the rename and then do a duplicate? Because I think also in RTC case, like the user that is working with another user on the document, it looked like the save as is closer to say I'm renaming the current thing and dumping a duplicate of a certain state of the document. I think
Yeah,
it will save a lot of case, but I don't know if it will work so easily on the technical side.
I think it will work because right now the rename it works because basically when we rename the file in the backend we know it's the same file so we can rename it and we will just need to create a new one from that file. Like we will need to create the old a new file with the old name, let's say. And yeah, it should work.
Just to answer to Jason, it's not really a rename, but from a technical point of view, it's the closest action. If you want to keep undo and hope that the user that are corroborating are still in the same document.
I think of save as is more like checkpointing a document and then working from the checkpoint. So to me, a rename is I want to change what I call this document and bring everyone along. To me, a save as is I'm going to step out of the collaborative session with everyone into a new checkpoint, but I don't want to force everyone else to move to my new document. And so I think of it much more as a duplicate, leave everybody else, leave all the collaborative state and everything in the old document model, and duplicate and put me on a fresh new document that has the same content. But Vitor has content.
Yeah, for most users, they're not going to be in collaborative state, right? They're just going to be working alone on the document. And when you click Save As, you're just going to say like, all right, I need to say, I have this file I received from somebody else. I made some edits. And actually, I don't want to overwrite the old state. I want to make a new document here, version 2, whatever. And when I save that, if I suddenly lose all the undo state, that's a bad experience, right? And it's not about leaving other users behind or anything like collaborative state. It's just about me and my experience and what I expect from SaveAs compared to other document editors. Because it's a standard pattern, right?
In my opinion, I'm more with Jason. I think when we save as, you are giving that document a new name. So it's not the same state anymore. Like you're creating a new document.
I think we should align with what other editors do. If like Microsoft Word and Notepad and Vim and everything else, if you use Save As and you lose your undo state, that's okay. If everybody else retains the undo state, then yeah, we lose a feature compared to Lab 3, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I will check other editors. We'll see.
I think it is complicated by the fact that the undo state is from the collaborative session. That's why I'm really curious what William has to say about what he does.
So I never implemented Save As. Similar, I think the Google Docs doesn't have Save As.
Yeah, I just looked. I was just about to say. I just looked. It doesn't have.
But I mean, seeing this issue, I think it makes a lot of sense to have Save As. It's like don't you kind of use it like a forking model? Like you're working on a document and then you're like, oh, I want to do something different. I want to take a different direction. And then you save as, it's not renaming the file. It's making a new file with a different name, but you still want the same undo state. And like you're going to continue from where you were, but in a new branch, I think. So I think it's a sensible thing to implement, but I don't have the answers to any of these questions for CodeCalc. But I was thinking about them, and I think I would very much like to keep the undo state like Microsoft Word does, and then keep at least the recent time travel history. I think it's a good idea to have Save As. But Jason, your question of what happens to all the other people with the same file opened is a really interesting one. Like, for example, what if you have the same file opened on another browser tab? You probably wanted to just have the new name, but maybe you don't. And I don't know. I really don't know. It's really unclear what should happen. It's a lot more challenging to implement if you make it so that it closes and then you get the new file for everybody else too.
Is
And
it
maybe that's confusing. I
is
don't
it
know.
technically possible to duplicate like the RTC state from MyPy and say like, oh, we're now going to have two documents with exactly the same state?
Yeah, I believe it's technically possible. But yeah, we will need to implement the duplicate action in the backend, let's say. So basically right now what we do is that when a new user joins, we open the document from disk, then we create a white update with that document. The problem is if we create a new document, that white update is not going to be the same as the old one. We will need to somehow create so we will need to get the updates from the old document in memory in the backend and create a new one instead of loading from disk. It is possible, yeah, but right now we are on a mixed state. We are still using the old API with some parts that we are re-implementing. We will need to re-implement everything specific for RTC to do those kind of operations. So, yeah.
Okay, so let's probably proceed to the next topic if there's no one else has any questions or points to take. Stephanie, you're up.
Hi guys. So basically, I remember then a past like couple weeks, we were discussing about the Google season of docs. So I instantly thought about that it was a great opportunity for the accessibility team to have a technical writer that will be focused on writing everything that we want to write, but we don't have any bandwidth to do it right now. So I added like the scope that we've been thinking about in the Team Compass issue regarding the Google season of docs. So basically, yeah, we can break it down into 3 parts right now, which is the first part is to just create an accessibility page that will be inspired in the VS Code one. So it will be just flag all the features that users can have for accessibility features regarding theming, zoom, and everything else. And the second part will be just to have like a user-focused documentation that will basically state it will describe the current state of the accessibility features with the audits that I know that Isabella and myself had done in the past year, which are about the keyboard navigation and the 400% zoom audits. And as a stretch goal, we were thinking that we can also add like a FAQ guide just to explain how to develop accessible notebooks. That will be more for users and both developers. So yeah, that's been like more of the route that we are thinking to do. I don't know if there's anyone that's interested in the Google season of docs, if there's another proposal that we are thinking to send, or if this sounds right. So yeah, I want to fill the room with this idea.
Thanks, Stephanie, for proposing to submit something. I would just emphasize that if there are people that want to extend the scope, I would say that that should be done in the same proposal, a bit like what we have done for CZI, avoiding to provide multiple proposition to Google Doc program and just try one for one software.
Yeah, that sounds right. Like if anyone is interested, just contact me and we can work together as well. So yep, thank you.
Okay, awesome. So Isabella, you're up.
Yep. Sorry, you probably hear a dog, but I'm just here with my usual announcement that the Jupyter accessibility call will be 15 minutes after the scheduled end of this one. So everyone is welcome. I see we have some stuff on the agenda. So just your open call. Thanks.
Thank you, Isabella. So Nicholas is next.
Hi. It was just to mention that I opened a job a few weeks ago to add a new field in the debugger info response from the kernel. So it's an optional field. And I was wondering what's the next step for that, because it should be totally backward compatible. And so that's it. Thank you.
Hey, Andrew, can I just drop in one quick admin note that I realized? Is that next week, most of the United States moves its clocks forward, but most of Europe does not. So that means that until Europe moves its clocks forward, you all will have to join us an hour earlier because this meeting on the Google Calendar is tied to the US Pacific time zone. So just be aware, I added it to the top of the notes, but mark your calendars.
That's a really good point. Thank you, Jason. If you use, I mostly use Google Calendar and Apple Calendar, so it always shows all the meetings in my time. So it would probably be adjusted in your calendar if you use those apps. Yep, thank you for the announcement. Does anyone has anything to say about JEP that Nicholas was talking about? Okay, I guess no. So
I
thank you.
would just say, sorry, actually quick thing,
Please.
but I don't want to make a promise about it. I just know as we're trying to get software steering council stuff spinning up, I don't know currently if anyone is looking at JEPs until that is the case. Someone can correct me if that's wrong, but I don't know quite what the timeline for this is, just to throw that out there.
Okay, thanks. I'll wait.
Okay, thank you, Isabella. And Mike, you're next.
All right, so there were a few pull requests merged into the master branch, which unfortunately broke the CI. And this thing happens for various reasons. And one of the reasons is that when the bot updates the snapshots, only part of the tasks of the CI jobs run, and it can incorrectly show the green status, whereas some of the jobs didn't just run because it didn't have permissions. And if anyone knows the solution, how to fix the permissions problem of the JupyterLab bot so that it always runs all the jobs, that would be great. But in the meantime, I propose that we enable branch protection rule on master, specifically requiring that the linked job passes every time. And that should allow us to have a visual indication that some of the jobs haven't run and started. Yeah, I see that there are questions. So first, I just wanted to reassure that everyone who's an owner on the organization with administrator permissions can still bypass this. So they can click on the checkbox and they will still be able to merge if there is a situation which requires that, such as silently merging a security fix, for example. So it doesn't prevent mergers, but it just adds an indication. It's an extra step, an extra protection. And we could either choose to require lots of jobs to pass with a green status or just one. And I think that the hint is like the least controversial one, which should always pass regardless of what is happening. So Any comments? Do we need to vote, or do we have a consensus with that?
I had a question, Mike. Is there an issue about CI? Because in the bullet points, I see a description of the managing gap protection rule. Wanted to double check if there is an issue to track the CI problem. Like your question,
yes.
does anyone know how to fix the rules, the permissions? Yeah.
Oh no, there isn't. So there is an issue highlighting which snapshots are failing, and there are already 2 pull requests trying to fix the situation, mine and Frederick's. So that's being worked on. But no, I'm not aware of an issue discussing why these jobs do not run. So yeah, I can create one, and we'll link that in the notes.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would be nice to create an issue. So maybe doing about it yourself if you want to do it. Sure, that would be awesome. Thank you. Yep. Does anyone else have questions or points to make about this? So no. Okay. Look at that. Now we have some additional discussions points. So let's go through those. Stephanie.
Can I check before? Stephanie, do you want this recorded, or do you want this to be an unrecorded additional
Happy to have it recorded. Thanks for
Okay,
asking.
thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, this is, I had kind of met with folks back in December a few months ago in a previous dev meeting just to float the idea of hosting a few studio days this year. And so much delayed, but I wanted to kind of resurrect that conversation. So I put in a Compass issue with some ideas around dates in April in San Francisco and for New York in August. But I was curious and wanted to bring it up, like just folks' thoughts about whether having it on a weekday or a weekend would be more accessible, and any sort of advice that you might have around how to advertise it. I really am keen to make it as inclusive as possible for folks that are in different fields or different might see this in different channels. So yeah, kind of a lot of open questions there, but if anyone has any tips or advice or thoughts on like weekdays versus weekends, would really appreciate that.
What does studio days refer to?
Oh, so this would be sort of a full day event where folks from the Jupyter community can come together, and it's very open-ended. Like it's different than a workshop where there's not going to be a structured or a single theme, but people can come with like issues, or if you're very new to Jupyter, it's a good chance, I think, to network with other folks in the community that you might not see day to day, or pair with people on issues that you're interested in tackling or picking up. Hopefully, Jason, I did a good job describing that.
It's not super dissimilar from a single day sprint.
Yeah.
But I would say even looser than that in scope.
Thanks, Jason, for the heads up about PyCon. That's good to know. Do you know offhand where PyCon is happening? In which city?
Yes, Salt Lake City. Come join me.
Whoa!
Very
That's
local
awesome.
to me. 20 minutes down the
Wow.
road.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so I know there's a lot of Bloomberg people that come often.
Yeah.
And oh, I see some people might be there. Awesome. Yes, I plan on being there too.
I think in the past we've tried it. I think we've done weekend events before, but then weekdays, I think maybe we could do one versus the other. Like New York, it might be trickier to do a weekend event just because of how the office works and the booking of like rooms and facility support. But I guess the other piece that I was curious about too is like, once we have dates finalized, what would be the best way to advertise it just outside of this meeting and maybe discourse? I guess in the past, like what have you found useful outside of just reaching out to people individually?
I haven't run a ton of events where I'm confident with scheduling. I know we ran the Jupyter accessibility workshops on weekends with the intent that they would be more open, but I don't know if that actually panned out, I'll say.
Okay.
Though that is like not a large sample, so I could be. So if it's easier for you to schedule facilities on a weekday, my guess is it might at least be worth trying with
Yeah, maybe, yeah, I can try one and the other since we've got at least 2 dates set up, and I can give feedback to and like let folks know what works better for the next person that wants to organize something like this. But yeah, more to come. I will definitely be in future meetings as we get dates set up and have more details. But yeah, thank you.
Maybe a good follow-up would be, since you're asking some questions, if people think of things later, is the best way to contact you to comment on the issue you created?
Yeah, that would be great. Or if you want to reach out to me directly through GitHub or other channels, that works too. But yeah, here's the issue. Thanks.
Yeah, if you want to add those channels to the notes, free to do that. If you don't want to do that, that's
Okay.
also fine.
Okay, thanks.
And thank you very much, Stephanie. So Gabrielle and Florence, you're up. Please note that like there is no here link. Yeah.
Hello. I'm working currently on a follow-up of a PR started by Jason Grout about proposing parity detail with a classic notebook, the one that enable to display the shortcuts. And so working on this, it appears that maybe it would be worth to discuss a bit more what we want to have in this shortcut display, how we want to organize the different shortcuts by groups. And so right now there is the logic implemented that works very well. But we were thinking about, is there another way to organize the shortcuts? What is, I don't know, if people are interested to join and discuss more how we want to organize this in the shortcut display from the UX design perspective also.
Yeah, I would say, Florence, that when we talked about this before, having like a multi-column layout was discussed before so that things could be more visible in one screen as opposed to a scrolling display.
Yeah.
I think that this looks really good to start out with. And I think if we can display everything as a sort of one image cheat sheet, everything visible on screen at once, even if it's wider, that might be even better.
And then the idea, when you have different columns, so then it would be maybe easier if it is organized in category, but then right now the logic is, so the display is contextual. And so in a contextual display, is it worth to have kind of category or not? I don't know. I'm totally agree that it would be better to have everything in a single window with a different column. So I'm thinking about how to do this, but okay.
I was looking at the screenshots from 11960, which Jason Grout had written, and I see what you mean by having like the category listed there. Personally, I think there's a better way to organize that. Like we could organize it by grouping everything under the same heading, for example. But like, I'm looking at how Gmail does its shortcuts, where it's a multi-column layout that if you hit the question mark key, at least in US English, you get something that I just dropped into the chat where you see everything on one screen.
Yeah, I think that we basically all agree that we want a sort of one screen and different columns as much as possible, and the less scrolling as possible. And so now the question is, well, there's two questions on a technical side. Does that mean having to do everything from zero? And I don't have an answer to that. And on the UX side, that's why I wanted to have another meeting so that I could understand what would be the best groupings and what goes where, and from a user perspective. So if you're a user and you're interested in attending that, well, please come.
Andre mentioned it,
Yeah.
but we don't see the link for a register if you intend for us to be able to.
Oh, on what? How could we create something to register?
There are, I would say there are a couple of ways. One really popular way is a Google form. You can create a Google form that would like ask questions from people who would like to register. Right? If you already know date and time that you want. If you don't know date and time that you want, in JupyterLab community, it's a really geographically diverse community. So choosing a good date and time is usually, like a problematic point. So something like Doodle or What is Good might be a good way. And is whichever medium you choose to let people register, you should post a link in these notes.
Yeah, I just dropped a link to
Yeah.
Doodle in the chat. I've used it. The free version is sufficient to like pick a time that works for everyone. I hope that it works with multiple time zones. That's one thing I'm not sure about.
It does.
It does. Excellent, Isabella. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's do that then.
And if you want it to be public, which I would personally encourage it to be, though I guess, you know, it can always be on the Jupyter community calendar, so that people don't have to register necessarily. I don't know if that's the goal or not.
Well, we could have a register to get the right time for the maximum of people that are here, and then put it on the community calendar, so that if anyone comes up later and wants to attend, they can. I would say that, but I'm not.
Is there space to add a usage point here, or are we still sorting out the meeting? I think the when is good thing would be great. I'd love to attend this. This is a great feature. We need it in lab.
Yeah, please.
So one of the things I'd like to think about in designing this maybe is what happens when you learn keyboard shortcuts over time. So for me, like the scrolling part's super important, because like as I gain skills with keyboard shortcuts and they become muscle memory, I'm going to want to learn more of them. So to me, this keyboard shortcut thing actually seems like a way to almost measure progress, because the more keyboard shortcuts you are, the more efficient you're getting. And I could totally see this as a way for people to up their skills significantly with the right information presented here.
Yeah, I also think that the shortcuts are increasing speed with which people can work, which is great. So yeah. Okay, does anyone else has anything to add? Yes,
Gabriel,
Gabriel, yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you. I'm just getting to this issue, and just so I see there's a lot of discussion, which I don't have time to parse right at this exact second. But my understanding is right now there's no ability to pull up keyboard shortcuts in JupyterLab, correct? Like this keyboard shortcut, it's all new. I guess I want to express like one thing here, which is even if you have to scroll and the current iteration here uncategorized, I feel like that's better than nothing. So I just hope it doesn't get like
perfect enemy of the good.
Back. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that it's like either Jason's or Florence's concepts are bad. It's just that we haven't committed any of them yet. And I think maybe setting out like a roadmap to say commit version 1 once we're satisfied with it, then make version 2 and so on, as long as someone's interested in improving on it. I agree.
Yeah, it's always fair to say we want to create more issues to track this aspect in later PRs, right? Yeah, it's a really good point.
And just as a precision, in fact, I haven't changed the implementation of JSON right now. I took it as a more or less as a block. I'm only dealing with the styling for the moment.
Yeah, thanks Florence for working with this, and Gabriela too. This is really important issue, and the fact that there is so much feedback just means that people feel strongly about it, and this is a great feature and very useful. Yep, thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else to add, let's end the recording, and then we can proceed with other things such as triaging 4.0.0 issues. Thanks for